Yeah, so I'm also like a bit unsure what to ask. I wanted to mainly just talk about like your game and like how you ended up making it and what it's about and what inspires you. Also, like what's your role on the team?
Yeah. Honestly, I've been answering the same questions all week, so like
So,
I'm as
or
prepared as I can
or
be.
or you can choose to not say any of that if you're bored of it and
No,
tell me
no,
anything
it's
else
good. I
that's
don't have
on
to
your
think
mind.
about it. Yeah, no, we're a small team of three, four, including the voice actress. The project's been in development for 7 years now.
Seven
Yeah,
years? Okay.
which is
That's
way
a
too
long
long. Yeah,
time.
it's too long. So we can't wait to get it out of the way now. But it's we call it a modern point and click. It's inspired by the classic point and click games, but there's a big change in the mechanic that makes it that I can explain in more detail. But it's like a twist that changes how you play, and yeah, there's a lot of hand-drawn illustration and hand-drawn cutscene animations. It's a mix of 2D and 3D. And yeah, we've been super lucky to be asked to come and show it around the world for the last year and put it in front of people before it comes out, hopefully in September this year.
So like where have you been able to go and
South by Southwest in Australia was really cool. Lisbon, there was an IndieX event where we won our first award for Best Art Direction, which was really nice.
wow,
Yeah,
that's cool. I mean, for me, because I'm like, we started our studio pretty not super long ago, like 2022
yeah.
we founded. So like for us, it's like we're hoping to also get to the point where we get more awards. I mean, or like
Yeah.
make it to these more international events. Like so far, the biggest thing we've been is just Gamescom because that was like across the country.
There's I mean, how I have questions about your game because I really love the story, the how it starts. I think it's really cool setup. That the mask thing, and then there's like the whole identity thing. We're trying to play as someone. The story, yeah, it's really inspiring. I really hope to see where it's going.
Thank
And
you.
but in terms of the events, yeah, it's been a real blessing for us because like we didn't really know about these kinds of events, and we got to the point where we're like, okay, we've been working on the game for so long, and how do we get it in front of people? And there's this channel, this Discord called How to Market Your Game, where they have like a list of events around the world worth applying
Oh,
for. It was really it's worth looking at because they tell you they have reminders for when to apply and what kind of exposure you can expect from that. And really, without these events, we would have been kind of like really, really struggling in obscurity. Like, we do social media, like I hate it. Like, I can't do like
I
Twitter
know the
stuff.
feeling. I'm also super awkward with it.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so these events is like kind of low effort, high reward in terms of if they choose you, they do love the putting your game in front of people. So it's really, really helpful. And there's a lot of them. So usually you just have to apply from home and that's it, see what happens.
Yeah, though I mean honestly, even applying is kind of a lot of work sometimes, I
So
find, but
yeah, but it's not like applying for a grant where you have to like
that's
really
true.
yeah. Do you what's your how are you showing it here? Are you in the honorable mentions or something?
Sadly, no,
No.
we did have an open screens for 2 hours
Oh yeah,
yesterday, so
nice.
at least we got that. But yeah, I was kind of sad that we didn't make it in the nominations. But hey, like, it's there's so many good games to pick from that I'm sure it was like
How did the open screen go? Is it good?
yeah, I think maybe the time window that we were in wasn't so good because there were a lot of people in the beginning and then kind of emptied like the venue. So I think people were going to like have dinner or something.
Oh yeah,
But it was still cool. Like we still got some people to give it a try.
nice.
Um, So about, I mean, because I'm curious, because you said that you've been working on it for 7 years. That's a super long time. What is this the first game you started with?
Yeah, so first game, we did a Kickstarter that was kind of like proof of concept really early on, and I wish we hadn't done it because where it looks completely different, and now it's there forever. Once it's on Kickstarter, you can't
Oh,
change it.
yeah, but how did that go?
It went well. It was a very small round. It was like 10,000 euros, which for like in development costs is like nothing. It's like a few
Yeah.
months. It goes like that. But it was to us. It was more like to feel like a bit of confidence, suppose that there was interest in this kind of game and the kind of universe we're trying to create. So, but that was in 2017, and we said the game's going to be out in 2019. So we're
Oh,
like 5 years late now already, and every 6 months I have to go on Kickstarter. We're like, so sorry, the next 6 months it's coming. So
oh man.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
tough.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, we so far haven't considered Kickstarter because we kept hearing that it's kind of a lot of work, and maybe what you get isn't that much to justify the work. But at the moment, I'm reconsidering it because, like right now, since we're kind of like talking to publishers, but we're not really going anywhere yet, we're thinking maybe it's like the necessary step.
I,
I don't know though.
if I were to start again, I would get the game like 90% complete, and try and do a campaign like before when you release in the next 6 months or something, and then you build a community just before release.
Really?
Yeah, this is I think if I was to do Kickstarter again, I wouldn't try and get money before, because all the delays and stuff for us is more like it's almost like damage control. I feel like I'm obviously still going to deliver the game, still deliver all the physical rewards that we promised. But it's been so long now, people kind of forgotten about it.
Yeah.
And they're not excited about it to come out. It feels more like, all right, when's it coming out finally? So I think some games do really well. I was talking to some developers in Sydney. We worked on a rhythm game. It's called Bits and Bobs. It's like really, really cool. But they got a big Kickstarter. They did really well with the Kickstarter campaign, and I think that was their plan as well, to like bring the community from Kickstarter over to while they finish development fairly quickly. I think that makes kind of sense.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking about it that way, but I see. Yeah, because I guess like I talked to some people who work with Kickstarter, like contracted directly by Kickstarter to like help games come over and like do a good Kickstarter campaign. So there's some support there apparently for free, like paid by Kickstarter. But I guess they were saying that it's rather that you could try to use the Kickstarter campaign, if successful, more like a bargaining chip with publishers, or like
Oh,
as
interesting.
the early stage of building a bigger community. But yeah, if it fails, then it's a lot of time you lose kind of.
Yeah, it's a full time job when you do the
Yeah,
campaign. That's tough. And
that's
then
true. And the way you said, like if you do it too early and then you're going to release the game many years later, it's kind of like people maybe lose faith in your ability to deliver, or they don't care anymore, or
yeah,
yeah.
but at the same time, I mean, I've been funding campaigns that didn't succeed, or some that are really, really delayed. And to be fair, okay, this is a lot of it is my feeling. Like I feel the pressure. I call them like the shareholders. They're like the shareholders asking us, but they're not. Like every time you post, everyone's super supportive and understanding. And when you fund a Kickstarter, when you help creators at that stage, the risk, and that it might not happen like that. And even I don't know, a game like Harold Halibut, like the Slow Bros.
Yeah.
Like I funded. It didn't succeed.
Did you?
Yeah, like back in the days, and it didn't succeed. And still,
I didn't
I
know.
followed the development.
I only learned about the game basically when it released, and then I watched somebody play it, and I adore it. Like I can't wait to also like explore it on my own when I have the time. But yeah, then I found out that they took like what 14 years to make it
Yeah,
or
yeah.
something like that, which is so much time. I can't even, yeah. So their campaign didn't even work out
No, no,
on
no. It didn't.
Kickstarter.
It had a. I can't remember the goal, but it didn't make it.
Wow.
Yeah, so you can fail a campaign. It doesn't. It's not a stain on your reputation or anything. I think that's fine. Would you? At what stage of development are you at now? You think?
So kind of like still pre-production. We're still reworking the prototype that we currently have, so we get more like mechanics in there, and we basically have like a 15 minutes playable.
And you have a whole team for the art and sound and writing and
No,
stuff? No.
no, we had funding for a prototype from like Hamburg. We could then have contractors for art and sound and music.
Okay.
And now that that's like no longer there, we basically are just three of us, like the founders of the studio, still kind of like working with what we have or like doing more writing, more programming.
Is
And
it? Do you have a blueprint? Like you know where the story, because it's very story rich,
yeah.
right? Or narrative. Do you know where it's going from beginning to end, or are you still working out some
So
stuff?
we mostly do, but there are still like some parts in the story where we're still like we're still thinking about how this should go. So like the high level story is fixed, except for we have some possibilities that things could go, and we're just like still solving that riddle, basically. Like, yeah. So it's not totally finished there, and we kind of want to finish the plan for the story before we actually start production,
Yeah.
so that the artists know exactly what they need to deliver.
Yeah, that sounds smart. So much you can waste a lot of time going over revision and changing things.
Yeah, I mean, we already did a lot of that in the prototype, and we kind of noticed firsthand that how much money goes to waste if you don't know exactly what you need. And we want to avoid that in the future. I mean, hopefully, as much as we can. Um, did, how about you guys? Are you a full team? Are you the artist or the what's your?
So my wife is the artist. We've got a friend who's a sound designer, and I do everything else. But one thing we found is that the a big advantage we had was that the game was written as a film script before. That's why I wanted to pitch it. So it was a real story, like 90 minutes, like screenwriting,
Ah,
like
so was it
a
planned as a
screenplay.
film before, or just that was like the initial thing you had?
Yeah, the first the story I came up with was for a film, and then I was taking meetings with producers in London, and when you take these meetings, they was like, oh yeah, we love it. So what else are you working on? And I was like, no, just this, let's do this one. This is the one. You have to make it. But that's not how it works in the film industry at all. And so, but this idea was like, oh, can we? How can we make it happen with just ourselves, with just a small team? And I'd always been interested in game design, and especially point-and-click games with storytelling and puzzle combined. I think point-and-click have a real advantage of being able to tell the story through the puzzles and how you solve
Yeah, I
puzzles.
mean, I really like those kinds of games too. Like that's kind of the main thing I play, like point and click or just narrative adventure stuff.
And so, yeah, so there was a blueprint for the story from beginning to end. But still, what I found was that at every stage, sometimes, so we draw a scene in the game, like an area, and the artist will come up with details that inspire you at this point in the story. It was like, oh, maybe that should go in, or even the voice actress would say something in a way of like, oh, come up with an idea on the spot to be like, should they say that? Maybe well, every interaction, every individual ideas come together and kind of influence each other as you progressing in making the game, like the content of the game. So that changes things as well as you're making it. So it also added a lot of time, like rewriting parts, and like you're saying, you see how much time it takes to rewrite
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. I think that we basically want to plan as much as possible what's going to be in the story, but we're also kind of aware of, yeah, in the end, you still kind of get ideas from other people, or you realize, wait, this is a much better way for the story to go than you planned. So we might still have to throw away a lot of the ideas.
Yeah, it helps to have a blueprint, like if you know how it ends, I think it's easier to get to it
Yeah.
within the game.
Yeah, we were also advised to maybe actually start with the end when it comes to like putting scenes together. We haven't done that yet, but I think we kind of want to try, or at least like to once we're done with this episode that we're working on in the prototype, which is actually maybe we didn't pick the best moment in the story maybe for making a prototype, because it's quite in the beginning of like the whole story. So at this stage, there's not enough opportunity to show how the relationships progress between characters. Like, because the game that we want to make is a lot about the relationship you build with people.
Yeah.
And the episode that's playing in the prototype is kind of like this early thing where you just meet a whole bunch of people. And yeah, there's just, it's not the best scene for showing how things can progress with somebody.
Okay. It's a
So,
strong start though. I like the hook of the mask, and it sounds to me like this is all like there's all challenges you find in screenwriting. It's like you start with the end, and you build your characters with that kind of purpose in mind, and you discover who they are as you write them. You know, to write them in the story, and you find out who they are, like what they do, not just in the story. What did they do before? What will they do after? You know, all this building from the feet up. They say, like what kind of shoes they wear, what kind of
yeah.
like who they are, what do they think about. It's really like writer's room exercise, right? Where you think about the characters and try and see how it influence your story. I was trying to describe your game. I was thinking of Oxenfree. Do you know this game?
Yeah,
Is
it's
that
one
fair?
of the inspirations,
Oh
I
yeah.
guess. I would say,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. With the conversations, because obviously they have this crazy like real-time conversation mechanic.
Yeah, like that's what was a big thing for us because we wanted to basically show or like come up with ways that you can show a dialogue system uh, like behave that's not so, I don't know, like classic, but just like how what different ways does a game like this have to kind of express differently what goes on in the player's head or like the character's head. We probably won't be able to do stuff that Oxenfree did with like interrupting somebody,
Yeah.
but we at least want to do like kind of ch- fake chance-based outcome of what happens. I mean, in the end, I think we still have to pre-write every outcome in the dialogue. Though I'm still hoping maybe there's like a small chance we could also like do something kind of like what Disco Elysium does with dice rolls, but I think that would be too much
An element of
for us.
randomness and chance.
Yeah, like for now we've abandoned that idea, but more in the beginning was a real thing of like trying to make it a bit skill based. That sometimes you would pick a choice that is a bit hard for you to communicate, but the better you are at communicating, the more likely it is that you get it to go your way.
I see. Yeah.
But now it's more like it just kind of depends on the stage in the relationship where you are with that person.
Yeah, and that can be done through dialogue lines as well. It doesn't have to be a skill like points
Yeah.
based. You can really with the what kind of choice you make with how they express something can
Yeah, it's
resonate
probably,
with different
it's
characters.
likely how we will do it in
Yeah.
the end.
Did you watch? There's a talk by John A. Gold from I think works for Inkle about there's a really cool talk at Adventure X. It's a festival in London.
Yeah, actually, like we wanted to go to Adventure X this year for the first time, and they canceled
Yeah,
it in
it's not on this
person.
year. No,
That
that's a really good
sucks.
one. But
Yeah.
if you're there next year, but there's a really good talk where he breaks down a scene from Blade Runner and says how could we write that as a dialogue system, and trying to think of different options and how it would make sense to convey the same meaning with dialogue options, which is very very.
I actually want to take note of this stuff because I'm pretty sure I'll forget.
Yeah, I'll send you the links later.
Or, yeah, then I guess we can do that later. But just that I remember because I'm always trying to find like things that could help us get inspiration. So you're saying you have like, it sounds to me like you have a background in like script writing then.
I don't have a
Or-
background. It's what I wanted to do. It's what I enjoy doing, but it never made a career out of it. So
Okay.
I'm really interested in it, but
So
I've
what
never
is
made
your
it.
career so far then? Like,
Whoa.
or where did this start?
Yeah, everything. I was like doing like session keyboard player like, for a while. I was like
Really?
in the music scene.
Wow.
But yeah, I did a whole bunch of stuff. Did like tech. I did a lot of writing. That was my as I earned money for a long time. Copywriting and like technical writing. So definitely kind of very written word kind of stuff. And then I've been very lucky to be laid off by a big tech company last year, so I got like a good package. I've been to use to finish the game. So yeah, so
Ah.
right now it's the game full time until it's out, and then we'll see what happens.
Well, I hope it goes really well.
Yeah,
'Cause,
thank you so much.
yeah, I guess sometimes it's good to just like be given the opportunity to just do full time what you want.
Yeah, it's the dream. You want to work
Yeah.
for a big tech company and then be fired. It's the best thing you can hope for in this post-capitalism capitalist system.
Yeah. So about the game itself, because I think like I didn't get to ask yet, like, can you summarize the premise and like what are the mysteries you have to kind of
Yeah,
solve?
so it starts off. It feels like it's like a detective game. It's really an investigation. You're a reporter who's looking for her brother, and her investigation takes her to this oasis in the desert called Phoenix Springs. That's the name of the game and the name of the place. And it's a place I can't really talk about it too much, but it's like really interested in like intentional communities. A place built like kind of like failed utopias kind of thing. So it's kind of explores a lot of themes based around that of people get together in a place. It doesn't really work out how it's supposed to. That's as far as I can go.
Okay, that's very interesting. I mean, I'm getting like just thinking like a cult or like a weird community
yeah,
commune. I mean,
yeah. It's more like like a failed idealism, but we call it neo-noir. So it feels really noir. There's a sense of fatalism and doom and being unable to do fatalism. Like being able to change what's written. And it's sci-fi as well. So very.
oh, is it?
Yeah. Definitely. Try not to play the sci-fi angle too much, but it's based around technological advancements and stuff like that.
Okay.
Have you played keep forgetting the name. It's like it's neurocracy downstairs.
Which one?
I'm gonna get the name wrong, but it's like an alternative reality Wikipedia.
Honestly, I haven't had the chance yet to play any games, so
Oh, it's so good. If you're into sci-fi, it's Wikipedia. So you load it on your phone. It's like a website. So it's on your phone or wherever you check Wikipedia, and it looks like a Wikipedia interface, but it's for an alternative reality. Well, it's in the future, and there's no goal. It's kind of like her story, or kind of like really not goal-oriented gaming where you have to solve the problems in your head. There's no instructions or anything. It's just like curiosity is the mechanic. So you start browsing links and finding out what's happening, and then you realize, oh, something's happened, and you can go through like the revision history.
oh
It's
wow.
so good. I'll have to find a name because don't want to get it wrong.
Yeah, I guess I also want to check it out. I mean I don't know if this sounds familiar, but I don't know if it's the same game and or if this is something else because I have the impression that I've heard about the Wikipedia like game before.
And I was talking to the developer. He presented at Adventure X. He said Adventure X being a big part of the development of this game. It's called Neurocracy. Neurocracy 2049.
That yeah, you know what? That might be. I might have heard about it, but I'm going to write it down. I have this document that I'm trying to just like take notes in just for a maze. Hopefully, I'll go through them again later.
Yeah.
Neurocracy. I think this was the one I was looking at. I think it's not a new game.
No, that's another cool thing is it's been out for more than a year, I think, but they can keep adding stuff like a real wiki. And so that you can delve deeper into the rabbit hole and they can have more mysteries and stuff. It's so cool.
Yeah,
I'm so in love with that concept.
that
The
does
concept
sound really
and the
cool.
execution is also really well done. Like the website feels really good.
I think the only thing that I can say that I've sort of played that is kind of in that vein is maybe like I played Orwell quite a long
Oh
time ago.
yeah.
And that one also kind of has this whole thing of searching for clues and and like piecing things together
Yeah.
and building kind of like a profile of whoever it is that you're looking into.
Yeah. Orwell's quite similar. Orwell's like it's really guided though, because they really you
Yeah,
have
that one's very guided.
Yeah. And this one is like completely not guided. It's you completely on your own, trying to find out what happens.
But you still have some outcome you're trying to
It's
accomplish.
only in your head. In the game itself doesn't ask you for anything.
Really?
Yeah.
So you don't have some kind of like quest or
Nope. Nothing.
even
It's
like
just
a defined mystery.
no.
Interesting.
You're,
Maybe I could actually ask, because I've kind of ignored chat so far, but do you guys have any questions that we haven't addressed? They've been just like dumping links. Why do I not have a wooden spoon as well? Yeah.
you can.
Nah, I clipped it to my shirt. Like, I realized later I could just have made you clip it to yours, but
So I'll go with it.
yeah. Francie asked a question. How does one keep motivated to keep going on with? And that's a good question, especially if you've been doing this for 7 years.
Yeah. Well,
Did
you
you
know
have
what? In a weird way, I guess the Kickstarter thing kind of keeps you motivated because
Oh,
you kind of
because
owe
you
it to people. You don't
yeah,
want.
the
I don't
external
want to.
pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of helpful. But yeah.
But did you get tired of the working on the same thing for so long? Did you have like moments where you needed to go totally apart from it?
Yeah, so it's always like peaks and valleys and stuff. And sometimes you feel like, oh, this is amazing what we're doing, and the next day you're like, what am I doing? I don't know what I'm doing. It's horrible. But a big help mentally is to I've got this post-it like above my desk. It says it's an experiment, and I keep thinking like it's just an experiment. We're just trying something, and it frees you a lot of the pressure of trying to think, what if people hate it? Like, I don't care. It's an
Yeah.
experiment. Yeah, see
Yeah.
what happens. So yeah, trying to think like that.
Yeah, I try to also think that way. Sometimes I still get in this mind space of, I'm just doing failed experiments all the time, or like I haven't gotten my stuff together to produce something. But like, I guess these are the steps that will take you eventually to maybe having something. So you can't really beat yourself up for not having accomplished something great immediately, or already there's still no timeline for it in the end. Like,
Yeah, and also you it's so cliche, but you have to enjoy the process. Otherwise, it comes out, and it's not fun when it's out. You know, it's not the making. You're not
yeah.
making art anymore. Then you're just trying to sell it, and it's not fun.
Yeah, and that's actually, I don't know how you or your team does that, because we've been also struggling with actually having fun making the game. Quite a lot of the time it feels like it's just a chore, and we want it more for the outcome of having made it sometimes, and I don't like how often we end up kind of in that mood with it. Where me personally, I think maybe the other guys have less of a problem with that, but I definitely do.
Is there also with the scope? 'Cause a piece of advice that we didn't follow, and I wish we had, and everyone says is if it's your first game, make it really short and then ship it and be done and see.
Yeah, we're not following that either.
Yeah, no.
We've also, like, we technically started 5 years ago,
Oh wow.
but we've not, like, when we started, we didn't really think we were going to make a game and ship it. We just did a study project. And then after that ended, like, it took another year where we did something completely different, and then we got back together and we thought that we actually wanted to make an actual game.
Okay.
And then we kind of committed to that in 2021. We actually started.
Was it always the same team from the beginning?
No, only part of it, like me and one of the guys are still part of that original team, and then we got some other people to join us. But yeah, it's still been like 3 years where we're just really trying to see that this game will definitely make it.
And does everyone do a bit of everything in the team?
Not
Or do you
really.
have strict roles,
So
defined roles?
mostly we have defined roles because I think if we didn't, we would maybe we would get a bit like stepping on each other's toes or like redoing stuff that the other did, and then that could become a bit stressful or
Yeah.
like lead to misunderstandings. So we try to kind of still like know who's in charge of what. Like we know that we have the tech, the programming and stuff. One person, somebody is kind of very much leading the writing and the creative vision, and then I kind of try to like make sure everything works, but then I also kind of want to be involved in the production also like practically, so I sometimes still kind of work with the writing or with some animation or like making sure the sound design is like fits the mood and so on. Like I guess we all look at everything, but we also have quite specific roles.
Okay. But, so where does the challenge and motivation come from? Is it like when you lose sight of how much work there's to do for the whole game, or you think like there's too much left to do, or is it individuals like, oh, I don't want to do this task today?
I mean, I think it's a combination of that and also just like, yeah, I mean, I think that funding is still the primary issue because we are constantly having to think of what we need to do to secure funding,
Oh, yeah.
whether it is for us personally or for the project. So that slows us down a lot, and sometimes it can feel like kind of a hopeless thing to actually like try to push out a narrative game that might not do very well, even if we think it's great and we want to make it. It might not make sense financially, and that's a bit stressful. And apart from that, yeah, I think it's also demotivating because of the complexities of writing a story, the lack of experience in some cases. I don't know. I guess also just like mental health wise, sometimes we just are like individually like having a rough time. Stuff like this can all contribute.
Yeah, I hope you work it out. My feeling is if you have a sense of direction with the story and be like, this happens, this happens, this happens, maybe it kind of becomes guideposts to milestones. You know, he can get there and get there and get there.
Yeah, I mean, and I appreciate the wish there. Yeah, like we kind of do have that, but it's still kind of, I guess maybe it's still kind of rough to make the process fun. Like I guess
Yeah.
we're figuring that out as well.
So this thing on my feed the other day, it was Kurosawa, the director, who was talking about that, the writing process. He's saying people, when you go when you go climbing, mountain climbing, first thing they teach you is that you don't look at the you don't look at the top, right? It's just you do
True.
the next things.
True.
Yeah, it's chipping away at the work. It's really difficult. Just do a few hours every day. I try and do like I never do full days. I don't know if that helps as well. It's just like
No, I mean we also don't, and like sometimes I question the way we work because we don't want to burn ourselves out, so we try to be like just working just like a few days a week on it, or like not a full day, just like spacing it out. But yeah, then it's like, are we fast enough? Are we? Should we put more pressure on ourselves? But like I feel like already the pressure we do put on ourselves is kind of enough. So yeah, I guess it's good to hear that not that that's also kind of how other people approach it. That it's not so just like all the time.
yeah. I mean, the, it's weird where someone said don't really play games anymore, but like the best game I play is game development. You have to think like problem solving. It's a really fun part of trying to solve puzzles on how to make the game, how to present it, how to make it interesting for players. But the reality of it is really a lot of the time is not fun. It's
Yeah,
just like,
right.
you just do it. But then again, if you do it, it's not fun for a long time, and then something happens and you go, oh wow, then you see it in front of players and it's like, oh, it exists, and people respond to it.
Yeah, that does really get it back, like get the motivation back
Yeah.
a lot. Like just seeing that you did accomplish something, now people get it. That's still very rewarding. So yeah, I guess that's why I like going to events. Uh, but wait, I forgot what I wanted to say. No, it's gone. Sorry.
No worries.
Yeah, I guess I can see if anybody else asked anything. Oh, somebody joining new, needing an introduction. I'm sorry, I forgot your name already because it's a bit of a difficult name for you.
That's unusual. It's
Jigmé?
yeah, it's my Tibetan name, Jigmé.
Jigmé.
Yep.
Yeah, so you are basically the game designer, writer, and programmer.
Yeah, I can't code, so it's all use Adventure Creator, which in Unity, which is like a built-in.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's like visual editing and node editing.
I mean, that's still programming.
I mean, yeah, no, I can't. I shudder when people say like developer, even developer. I feel more like a designer, maybe. Developer. I can't develop to say.
Yeah. I studied programming back in the day, and I thought that was going to be my career. But then the more I tried, the more I was like, no, this is really not for me. Why am I doing this?
Do you
So-
still do some on the game?
Yeah, some stuff, but I'm definitely not on the level of like a game programmer. I don't aim to be. I aim to be more like, if I see something that needs to be there that I want it, I can try to like hack it in, and that's kind of it.
Yeah. Troubleshoot can do.
Yeah, but it still helps because like that still allows me to kind of get involved in the game a bit. But otherwise, I kind of leave the code to Julian, our programmer, who and he's very good and very fast, and I think it's best to have somebody who really enjoys that job. I would gladly leave it up to them rather than me kind of like trying to force myself to improve it in a field where I don't really feel like it brings me contentment, I guess.
Oh well, yeah.
How did you come up with the art style?
So
Actually, should have asked you already because I feel like the art style was the first thing that drew me to the game. It's very distinctive.
yeah, thanks. We always said, I mean, you can find it on the Kickstarter. It looks horrible, but still, then we'll always say we don't want it to look like a computer game. And so, because my wife is an illustrator, we co-founded the studio together, and she had a strong artistic vision.
Yeah.
So he was her style, the way she draws, and I was trying to match it with what I could do in 3D because it's 2.5D, so it's 2D and 3D, and trying to match it. And it took so long to get the style to work together because of my technical limitations. I can't do like shader works and stuff like that, so like really technical stuff. So I had to work really hard to come up with something. So we use all kinds of tricks like post-processing image filters to kind of blend the two styles together. And also a big challenge was that sometimes we'd have the art style that worked for a scene, for example, that's in the city at night. But when you took the same style to a desert, oasis, and nature and trees, it didn't work anymore. So we had to find a style that not only worked with the 2D and the 3D, but also throughout the game, that kind of continuity. And it's not like we were always thinking, we want the art style to stand out or to be like the main thing. But it's just to try and make it work, kind of transform it over the years to where it is now. I can't remember how we got there. It's just literally nights and nights of like moving one effect down the rack and up and see what kind of trial and error we could see what could happen. It's hanging by a thread, the whole thing. I really don't know how to recreate it.
Yeah, that's very interesting though, and reassuring in a way because we're also struggling with our art style and with the let's say like level implementation of it. Like right now, the game is fully 2D, and I'm constantly frustrated with that because I feel constantly like it doesn't have enough depth, like the scenes are missing that, and I'm hoping to figure out a solution there, like if we need any 3D components or not, or if we want more, like we even struggled to figure out if the streets should be like a surface or just a line, which is such a like, you feel like that's something maybe very basic to figure out for a game, but it's actually giving us a bit of a headache already because we can't decide what's the most simple way while also having parallax, if we should have parallax
Yeah.
in the streets or just with the buildings and where the buildings should go and how much detail of the world we can show without it becoming way too much work. And also like what works for an inside scene kind of doesn't work outside. So yeah, it's like that. You kind of have to eventually maybe stitch all these elements together and hope it fits across the whole thing.
Yeah. And you might even get to a stage where the story informs it. And it's like, if the characters feel this way, should the world look like that or should it
Yeah.
not, you know?
So I guess you allowed the game to kind of evolve, like you weren't so committed to like a specific look from the beginning. You kind of just saw what worked.
Yeah, yeah. And there's so much of the game was working with limitations as well. Of, like I said, my limitations as a technical, like 3D person and shader. But even another example would be the voice acting. The voice actress Alexandra was first we started doing different characters that were voiced. Like a
Is
normal
it
like
fully
dialogue.
voiced?
So it's fully voiced, but by one person. So it's all
Really?
narrated, almost like an audiobook. And
Interesting.
one reason was like she's doing an amazing job, and also it was like also like a budgetary constraint. It was like, oh, let's just hire someone who does an amazing job instead of having like 5, 10 people who might do a job that's not so good, and we have to, waste so much time trying to cast different characters.
True, yeah.
And so that also informed the style, which is it feels like almost like an audiobook. It's all from her perspective in her head. It didn't inform the story, but it worked with the story and with the style that we were working with.
Yeah, I actually I don't know a game that is fully in that sense like voiced and narrated by one person.
That's a good
do you have
point.
an example that you've encountered, or do you think that this is like quite new? I mean, I can only think of Baldur's Gate 3 doing the narrator, but
Yeah, you have the
she's not
D&D,
always
yeah.
doing the voice.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, like the DM.
Yeah, it's like a DM character.
Is it like is it called Fable? Is that
Fable?
one? No.
I don't know if Fable had that. I mean, I only played like Fable 3 or Bastion.
Yeah. Bastion. That's
Is
what I'm thinking
Bastion?
of. Yeah. It's like
I've not played
it's got
Bastion.
like a DM kind of voice. Like
Really?
yeah.
Oh, okay. But that
It's the
didn't
narrator.
inspire you or anything. It was
No,
totally
no,
coincidental.
no. Because in Bastion is kind of omniscient voice. It's like it's like the narrator, real narrator.
Mm-hmm.
But here is the character.
Oh, so it's more like you just hear her stream of consciousness, like, or at least she's telling you what she sees of
Yeah,
the world.
it's written in the present tense. It's got this kind of dreamlike quality. It was like, I'm doing this. I see this person. This is that. But because it's point and click, so you do something and she talks
I
about
mean,
the
actually,
interaction.
if I think of it, that makes a lot of sense because point and click already kind of usually does that of the character looks at things and talks about them, even if the others in the scene don't hear her. So it's kind of, they already do this.
Yeah, and
Like
also
first present tense stuff.
yeah, exactly. And dialogue is really hard. Like if you guys do it well, and if you can do it well, it's really tough.
Oh, we're struggling there a lot. We're
Yeah.
struggling with feeling like we can write natural, effective dialogue. It's a skill
Yeah,
that needs a lot of time, I feel like.
yeah, definitely. And also, it's also It's a lot of friction for the player. I find sometimes I find a lot of dialogue boxes really frustrating. When the dialogue is not the point of the game and you have dialogue boxes, I find a lot of the time it's really like contrived and it doesn't really add much, like
How
fake
do you
fake
guys
choice.
do
So
dialogue?
that's what so your inventory has clues. It's like a detective pinboard, and and it also the topics of conversation. So when you talk to someone, you talk about the problem you're trying to solve.
But so you still have dialogue because you said that you have narration from one person's perspective. So then
Yeah.
how do you?
So she says, like, Anka asks, "How do you write the dialogue?" Do you know what I mean? So it's like it's reported speech, and it helps
Oh,
you. So sometimes you can have a conversation that ends, and the character could say, "Well, that conversation didn't go anywhere." You don't need to have the whole exchange with the back and forth with the dialogue lines. So you
yeah.
can kind of it's like a compress time through speech.
That's a really cool way to do it. Then so, but then you don't like have like speech bubbles or like boxes. You just have basically the character. Does she still use some kind of dialogue interface at all to communicate this to like the player?
Yeah, it's the UI is the inventory. So that's the main UI, and so the inventory holds your clues, and the clues is what you ask about. So you can use the clues to interact with the world, or you can use the clues when you're talking to someone. That becomes a dialogue option. It's the same UI with just one UI for everything.
Yeah, I really want to take a look later to see how you design the UI.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, because we're also kind of like we're really trying to also figure out our UI. Like so far, we have this dialogue exchange UI that we are still tweaking, and we're still trying to figure out how to make it that people don't get bored of dragging these options in, because that's a risk with like the way we've designed it, that people might get like bored because you always have to do the drag and drop, and we wanted to also feel like satisfying or meaningful that they do that.
Is
And
it
then
like a positive friction thing where you want certain dialogue options to have more weight than others, so you want them to have an effort from the player, like a drag and dropping, and some of them can be easier.
yeah, like that's a pretty important aspect of these, that some right now it's just about their size. We're thinking about whether we want to also give them weight or whatever. We tried several things in the past, and what we arrive now at is that you basically just have like friction when you drag the ones in that are too big. So it's just a bit like the resistance from the squeezing kind of translates into just like how that the user has to keep pressing, and kind of like the thing just moves in
I
slower,
see,
and then
yeah.
eventually it slots in. And I think that interaction feels like cool,
That's really cool.
but the challenge there is to avoid that the player always takes those options just because they feel cool, and kind of like ignores the basic ones that just drag in without any issue.
Oh, I see. Or vice versa, where they could check the ones that are easy rather than the ones
Yeah,
that are
I mean,
taking
we
away.
want to make it kind of punishing or risky if the players take the one that are the most like physics satisfying, by just making it that if you say something towards the wrong people, and it's like it could backfire really well, so it should make people really reluctant to pick that option without a very good reason. But that's all in the writing,
Yeah.
which is also challenging.
It's almost like the idea of a intrusive thought of like something surfaces to the top and you want to drag it down, right, to avoid
Yeah.
it happening. Maybe instead of like one wants to come on top, but you don't want it to, so you have to hold it back rather
Yeah,
than
like we
push it
also
in.
have these moving options, which are separate, kind of like that's another mechanic, that some options start falling down on their own, and if you don't want that, because that's kind of like a slip of the tongue thing, then you
Yeah.
have to kind of grab it on time, toss it up, and then pick something else.
Nice.
But that doesn't solve the issue with like how do we avoid that players always feel like they just want to drag in the fun one. So
Well, hopefully if they invested in the characters and making the right choices for the character, then you can't control how people are going to play, because people are going to
That's
spoil the
true.
game anyway.
That's
No matter what
true.
you do.
Yeah, I guess it's in the end still a matter of writing the character in a compelling way and the story in a compelling way that people actually really understand what each choice could do to impact the story, or yeah, that's like the ideal
Yeah.
scenario. More questions? Also, please let me know if you need to go, because I guess you've already been in this talk for like an hour now. So I wouldn't want to keep you too long.
I'm happy to answer more questions. I'll grab a coffee at some point, but
Yeah. So let's see, maybe this question. What about, oh, this is more like for me. If it's like a bowstring, the heavier choices would stretch it more and there's a risk of it snapping.
that's nice. Like a elasticity thing with the
Yeah, we've also,
breakage.
yeah, that's also a possibility that we might do like, we were thinking this would be more of a one-time special scenario where you do something that actually breaks your like openness ring, this container that you drag stuff into. But it's interesting, maybe if we make it elastic, I think we haven't thought about that in a while, but we did have some brainstorming sessions at points where we were like, yeah, what if you can make this container elastic and you can still drag stuff in there that's bigger, but then there's like a risk of it breaking, or there's even more distortion that applies to like the things you say. Yeah, it's interesting.
Have you seen the 1001 Nights game?
No.
It's um, it's super exciting. It's like almost like a tech demo, but they're using ChatGPT, like LLMs, but not as, so they're really careful to say we're not doing, it's not AI art, it's not an AI game, but they use it as a translator in the game. So the input is the player. There's a keyboard. You type a story, and ChatGPT translates it for the character in the game, so the character understands it in the game. As and it's 1001 Nights, so it's based around the Shahrazad story of weaving tales and telling stories. And there's a few keywords that you have to write in your story, and ChatGPT picks them up and tells the character like this is a good one. It's
Interesting how they use it like an interpreter. Like, I have no idea how this works
yeah, like, on the
practically in the
technical
game,
level,
but
it's like it blows my
yeah,
mind.
it
There was a
still
talk about
sounds
them, but I missed
rough.
it. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I think when I go home, I'll have to like review the VODs on their channel.
there's another developer I really like called Garage Heathen. Do you know? He did a game called they did. I don't know how they identify it. Was the game called Who's Lila, and it's super weird, like horror.
Wait, is that the one with like morphing the faces?
Yeah. That's what. Yeah.
Yeah, because I saw this like back a few months ago at the Playfest in Hamburg. They also had that displayed.
So they were also working on something with LLMs as a kind of
Is that actually
like a
using LLMs?
not this one, not this one.
Not
This
this
is maybe
one.
a future project, but it's
Okay.
definitely exciting to see how.
Yeah, like it's just that this whole AI thing with the creative industry right now is such a big topic, because you don't like there's so much creative like infringement that some of these tools do, taking people's creations and just kind of like mangling them into some output. And so we're also like really careful what do we, if any of these tools we want to work with. And it's like it's a great potential, but at the same time it's also like we don't want to do stuff that's unethical or will replace people's jobs, or like
Yeah.
basically creativity. I mean, we still want to honor that the people that make things at the end of the day. So don't know how much to encourage the use of AI.
Yeah. It's someone said when they're playing our game, because we don't use any AI like for art,
Yeah,
not for
we
a voice or
neither.
anything.
Yeah.
But because the character's delivery is kind of really like robotic almost. She talks in kind of really monotone voice, and someone was playing and is saying like, oh, I know it's not AI because I heard her say things in a way that it can't be AI. But I hate that I have to think, like, is it AI
Yeah.
or not?
Seriously,
Even as
these
the-
days you think about everything. Wait, is this AI? Is this voice, or is this like, yeah? It's
Yeah.
always in the back of your head, and I kind of hate that. Like, it's kind of ruining the experience of just thinking, okay, you just appreciate that somebody made this. Rather, it's more like, I don't know if they really did it.
Yeah, it's also different when people see your game or experience it in bite-sized things like a demo at an event, and they have time. They can't lose themselves in the game in the same way that they would if they bought it and they play it at home, in their own space.
Yeah,
So yeah, you
that's
have all
also
those
true.
questions going through your head.
Yeah, and I guess also like a festival is not a great place for a story game in general because people are like there's too much noise or there's too much reading and people probably like they don't have enough time and patience to try that out. I think we also experienced that yesterday that people were just playing like a minute or two and then they were just moving on. I think there was one more question, and then I would really let you go because I think we both need to have a break. But the last one was, do you think that there could ever be a point where a game type is completely saturated, or will there always be enough nuance to make new and interesting ideas? Wow, what a complicated question.
A game genre, like saturated. The thing is, it's. I was talking about it with a developer who was showing his game here, and it's a roguelite, and he was telling me that he went to a convention 3 years ago and he was pitching his game. No, someone was pitching their game, and they were like, "Oh, it's a really good game, but wouldn't it be better if it was like a roguelite?" The industry was saying that, and then he went to another convention this year, and someone else was pitching their game, and it was a roguelite. And the industry person was saying like, "Oh, I don't even want to hear about roguelites. If I get another inbox message about a roguelite, I just delete it straight away." So this weird thing where the genre, yeah, they get saturated, but only from an industry point where the industry people say, "Well, we don't want to do this," because they always want just to copy the last successful thing and just tweak it a little bit. And this is how capitalist system works: is that you copy ad nauseum, like until everyone is sick of it. You just copy and change and copy and change. And so if you try and predict the genre that's going to be good in 3 years, like, you're already too late. Like the genre is already 3 years. I don't know if I'm expressing what I mean really well, but the point is like it's not the genre itself. It's like what do you bring to the genre? Why do you want to make the game? It doesn't matter if it's like make like the 10,000th zombie survival game. It's like, what do you bring that's different? And yeah, it might not be in fashion, but maybe someone will pick it up in 5, 10 years.
Yeah, so if you're just chasing the trend or like trying to be just kind of replicating somebody else's success, it kind of ruins the creativity of what you're like, or at least you staying authentic to like why you're making a specific experience.
Yeah, why do you bring it? What do you bring to the table? Because there's a whole. If you check out this Discord, I was thinking about how to market your game. There's people who even think about how to market the game before the game exists. What kind of game can I market? What kind of game can I create? And it's this complete inversion of like people who write songs for Spotify keywords, right? Who just have
Yeah.
what does the algorithm want that I can provide and make money from?
Yeah, making stuff specifically to sell them even before they exist.
Yeah.
Just totally going with the trends and the consumer stuff.
It's crazy. There's business models of game developers who make Steam pages. They don't make the games. They make like 50 Steam pages, and they see which one gets picked up by the algorithm, and then they make that game. Right?
What? That's a thing?
Yeah, that's really
Oh my
so
God.
cynical.
Oh wow. It's in a twisted way. It's impressive to what lengths some people will go to just like make something that brings like financial rewards.
Yeah. I guess if
I
were to-
don't have that tenacity myself, I guess.
No, it's complete inversion of
Yeah.
why we make stuff that we want to
Yeah.
make, right? But yeah, to go back to the genre question, the way I would see it is like every genre is saturated already. Just
Yeah.
take it like that. Unless you make something completely new, go make it. You don't have to worry about what genre it's in. Then people will ask you, what does it look like? Maybe you can think about it's this plus this. But every genre is saturated already, and so just do the one that you think makes sense for what you want to tell. Huh?
So you make the game primarily because you love to see what you're making, rather than you need the market or the people to be like, yeah, this is what we want.
That's always been our approach, but again, I'm not an authority or anything because our game's not finished. It's not released. We're not selling it, and we don't know if it's going to do okay or not. But in terms of all these events where they get picked up, it feels like, oh, we're on the right path. Maybe we're doing something that, yeah, we didn't compromise and we didn't make a genre because it was the right one to be in. But it's different because we're outside of the industry. That's what indies can do. If you're in the industry, it's very different, I guess.
That's true. Well, thanks for thanks for all the insights and
Thanks for
all the
the
stuff you
conversation.
shared. Yeah, it was really nice to hear from, because I feel like we're also on this path of like we want to do something because we like it and we care about it and we're hoping to be as independent as possible doing it. Yeah, good luck
Yeah.
releasing, and I hope it supports you guys to continue doing stuff you like.
Yeah.
Hot dog, baby.
Hot dog, baby.
Yeah.
Touch wood.